reforming the way Canadians vote was mentioned in the last federal election, but it was certainly not a top issue on the minds of voters or in the platforms of the parties. And yet after the election, the Liberal government announced that we're going to have a total overhaul on the way Canadians choose our parliament. Well, joining us now is a Liberal who is skeptical of these changes. His name is Justin Diciano, and he is the councillor for Ward 5 in Toronto. He joins us now via Skype. Councillor Diciano, welcome to the program. I have to say, it's very exciting for us to have a Liberal on the show. It doesn't happen too often.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. As I was saying, the Liberal Party, which mentioned electoral reform in the election campaign, is really dead set on a total overhaul. They're talking about deep reforms to the way we vote. You're a Liberal. I read in your Toronto Sun columns that you were initially intrigued by this, being a Liberal, but you have become a skeptic. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard about, at the municipal level that they were going to bring in ranked choice voting, the argument made a lot of sense to me that people should be elected with 50% of the vote. Who can disagree with that? But originally I was for it, but then I started looking into it, researching it, and found that those claims simply don't hold water. It is not a majority system. It continues to be a plurality system, just like first past the post. So nothing's really changing. So if we're going to look at electoral reform, I think residents and voters should understand what they're choosing. And we haven't been sold what people are telling us.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, voting should be simple. Whoever gets the most votes wins is a pretty simple concept. You use the phrase first past the post. It means if there's 10 guys running and everybody gets, that means the winner may have less than 50%, but he's faster than anyone else. Tell me some of the other systems that are being proposed. They're very confusing. I like to think I'm a smart guy and I study politics, but single transferable ballot, multi-member it's just my mind starts to boggle, and I'm worried that this would be confusing not just to political insiders, but to anyone who says, well, I just want to vote for this guy. I don't want to rank things. I don't know about some of the other candidates. It just seems like it's turning a simple act of voting into like a political science term paper. I'm not saying that people are dumb. I'm saying you don't make it needlessly complex, especially if it takes away this simple democratic element of it. What do you say?
I say you're absolutely right. KeepVotingSimple.ca has been coined for that exact reason. These systems are complex. And you don't have to listen to the pundits and those activists who are really ill-informed when they tell you that it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. When you look at the empirical research that we've undertaken, the extensive research that we've undertaken, we see that ranked choice voting, for instance, is very, very tough. The data shows, I'm not saying it, it is not my opinion, it is the data that speaks to the complexities of the system for the elderly, for the disadvantaged, for all kinds of elements of society that find the system very hard to understand. Further to that, it's very, very expensive. It's nothing, when they say it's instant choice, there's nothing instant about it. It takes weeks and months sometimes to find out who the winners are. And ultimately, it's still a plurality system. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to reform our electoral system, what are we trying to change? What is so wrong in Canada that our electoral system needs to be totally revamped when it's still going to be a plurality system? Now, you look at the federal level, in fairness to the committee, they are reviewing different options. You're absolutely correct. They are all very complex arguments or complex formulas, but they all undertake some form of ranked choice voting. I like Canadian democracy, where you have a government that comes in for 4 years. They're able to govern. Do we want to be Italy? Do we want to be Australia, who's had 3 prime ministers in the last 3 years? Italy's had 35 prime ministers in the last 40 years. Do we want those types of governments, or do we want stability?
Yeah. When you were talking about it, the complexity of it. It reminded me of what they tried in the United States, especially in the South, after the emancipation of the slaves and civil rights legislation. They brought in what were called Jim Crow laws, which were sort of de facto discrimination. For example, you would have to pass some sort of a test before you were allowed to vote, some sort of a quiz to show how informed or how smart you are. And some of these tests were deliberately designed to keep less educated blacks from voting. So it wasn't on the face of it anti-black discrimination, but the effect of it was. Those were Jim Crow laws. If you say to new Canadians, to people who perhaps aren't as sophisticated, well, you have to rank it this way and choose this, and your second choice becomes your first choice. I mean, you are, I think, suppressing a certain kind of vote. And these, I think the whole idea is make it clear and people's meaning clear. If there's not 51% of people supporting candidate A or B, changing the rules is not going to change that outcome, except for jiggery pokery. What do you think is motivating it? I mean, you're a liberal, and I'm sure you're a liberal for all the best reasons. Do you think this is just misguided idealism or an attempt to reform something, just in the name of being modern? What do you think is motivating these guys?
Oftentimes politicians are going to be motivated for their own self-interests, to change an electoral model so that they can gain more power. That's probably human nature, and it's going to continue to happen. For me, it's about, regardless whether I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, or I'm an NDPer, it's about what's appropriate and what's fair for the Canadian people. And any type of electoral reform needs to be explained to Canadians properly. And the bill of goods that we've been sold are just not accurate. It's ill-informed information, and people need to be told.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to play dumb here. I just think, I don't want to get in a complex, I don't want voting to be complex. I want to mark an X. Let me get back to something you made. You set up that website, KeepVotingSimple.ca. What are your goals? I take it you've got a petition or something. How do you intend to fight back?
Yeah, so we are a grassroots advocacy group working nationwide. We launched a few weeks ago. We've had tremendous outreach, people calling in from British Columbia, from Alberta, from Prince Edward Island, activists from across the province looking to get real information, really just the other side of the debate. We've heard for the last 5 years what it purports to do for us, these different forms of ranked choice voting, proportional representation. But Keep Voting Simple is going to talk about really what First Past the Post has been able to do for us, what you're going to get when the changes come, because we've looked at the empirical research, and to talk about referendums. We want to make sure that Canadians' voice is heard. Anything that's proposed should ultimately go to Canadians, and the political elite shouldn't be deciding for us how we vote.
There you have it. Liberal councillor of Ward 5 in Toronto, Justin DiCiano, leading the charge on KeepVotingSimple.ca. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Ezra, for having me on.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.